Hello, everybody. My name is James, and welcome to another episode of NDI November. Today, we are actually going to be joined by Paul Richards from PTZOptics, and they're going to be talking about their single cable simplicity. Using NDI with their PTZ cameras, their controllers, and we're even get into a conversation about Hive Studio. I did want to say that due to scheduling, this is going to be a pre-recorded event. But you will want to stick around at the end of the show because we will still be announcing live the winner of the Zcam 4K. So definitely make sure to stay tuned in for that. And just a final reminder that NDI November is going to be going on all month long. You can still register at NDI November com to see the full calendar and also get access to our three main events, which are going to be on the 12th through the 14th. So you definitely don't want to miss those or any of these shows. And without further ado, let's just let Paul do his thing. Hey everybody, my name is James. I'm one of the hosts here at NDI November. It's another day, so we are doing another episode, and today we are being joined by Paul Richards from PTZOptics. Today we're going to be talking about single cable simplicity, harnessing power control and video over Ethernet with PTZOptics and NDI. Hey Paul, how's it going?
Hi, James. I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me once again. NDI November is such an educational event. I love joining and hearing from, you get such great guests to talk about NDI and this awesome technology that has enabled us to do so much on the PTZ camera side, being able to control cameras, have live video, powering our cameras, doing so much with a single Ethernet cable. Without NDI, so many of our customers, they're just saving so much money, doing so many great things. So it's an awesome program. Thanks for putting this on.
Yeah, of course. And Paul, since you're mentioning such great guests, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and PTZOptics?
Yeah, so PTZOptics, we are a pan tilt zoom camera manufacturer from outside Philadelphia in the United States. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary. And one of the
Congrats.
things that really makes us different is that, our support team is located here in the United States, and we have a really strong team here who really cares. So we're building products, we're updating firmware, we're offering a 5-year warranty. And when you get one of our products, you really know it's going to be continually upgraded and improved with the latest technology, many of that surrounding NDI and some of it surrounding the cloud and remote production, and really just providing a great flexible product for our customers.
I could not agree more. We'll get into some of those cloud-based workflows a little bit today. So let's start things off with your PTZ cameras because you mentioned that. Now, PTZOptics offers two NDI PTZ cameras. The first one being the Move SE, which is a 1080 60p PTZ camera that now includes NDI. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Move SE?
Yeah, so when we brought the Move SE out, we really wanted it to be our flagship affordable camera for everyone. So it starts at less than $1,000. And the other thing we decided to do with it took us a little longer, but now that these are shipping and they've been winning awards for all the features that we put in, they all have NDI and they all have auto tracking. So all of these cameras that from PTZ Optics, our Move SE, and we'll talk about our Move 4K, have the ability to automatically lock into a presenter or somebody in sports, right? We were testing these in tennis. And so these cameras can track up to 15 miles per hour and up to 300 feet away. So we can auto track, we can auto follow, we can even track groups of people and auto frame groups of people. So these cameras, not only are they pan, tilt, and zoom, with a great amount of connectivity options, NDI HX being the high efficiency version, HDMI, SDI, plug and play with USB for Zoom calls, for example. While these cameras are great, they also have built-in computer vision chips in them. So they don't need any additional software to be able to be controlled with a smartphone app or set up with automatically tracking a subject. So really advanced feature-packed cameras here, starting at less than $1,000.
I think that's a great overview. And I'm going to ask Adam if he can pull up the case study slide because you guys actually did not slide, sorry, lower third. You guys did a case study on the auto tracking in that tennis match. And I got to tell you, Paul, I was blown away with how well the auto tracking worked. You know, mentioning 15 miles per hour, that is impressive for auto tracking, especially for auto tracking that's included. I don't think many other people are doing that. And that's really impressive that you guys are offering that included in $1,000 PTZ camera. So kudos to you. You did mention that you also have the Move 4K, which is your 4K 60 PTZ camera. Can you tell us a little bit about the Move 4K and what sets it apart?
Yeah, so the Move SE being 1080p up to 60 frames a second, the Move 4K being 4K up to 60 frames a second. Now, the 4K models are more than just 4K. They have, you can see the 30X is actually physically 20 to 30% larger because it's got that really big 4K lens. But there are some differences, comparing against the Move SE. We have basically a stronger processor inside of these. So we can do additional features for presenter lock, that being the ability to lock into a specific subject and track up to 300 feet away. If you have a 30X camera, you can get a head and shoulder shot of somebody in 4K from up to 75 feet away. If you're using a 4K camera in a stadium or a very large house of worship, you can use the 4K camera with 2X digital zoom and still get a crisp 1080p video and double the amount of zoom. So you can be 150 feet away for a concert, or very, very flexible. These cameras all support NDI HX simultaneous to our hard video outputs, right? SDI, you get to choose from HDMI or USB. And these cameras support power over Ethernet. So that single Ethernet cable can power the cameras. You can use it to control the cameras with a joystick controller or software integrations that we offer. And then you have the ability to have a tally light on there. So if you're in a studio where you want the audience to be able to see whether the camera is live or in preview or not live, there is a tally light at the top. And they just have really high quality optics. So these have SONY CMOS sensors in there that are Ultra HD. We have the high quality PTZOptics optical glass inside there, and really high quality robotics. So these cameras can track a subject up to 15 miles an hour. So whether you're doing sports or you're in a house of worship or a courtroom or in an education environment, these have been built, strong enough to do any of those case studies.
No, I totally agree. One thing that I wanted to ask you, Paul, is as you can see on this slide, both the Move SE and the Move 4K are available in 12X, 20X, and 30X options. And I wanted to ask you, since you're talking about different areas where these cameras fit in, can you maybe give an example of where a 12X camera would fit in over a 30X camera, or when does it become overkill?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So a 12X camera, and I'll be able to do a little bit of a live demo here in a moment where you guys will actually see a 12X camera zooming in. So 12X cameras cannot zoom in as far as a 30X, right? So a 12X camera is good for a small space. So if it's a small meeting room or a small studio, you can actually zoom out further and get a wider field of view. So if you're in a conference room setting where there's like 12 people at a table, a 30X camera has a tighter field of view and might not be able to capture the two people sitting closest at a conference room table, as an example. So you get the wider field of view with the 12X, but you can't zoom in as far. So at 12X, when you're zooming in and using that optical zoom, we have a zoom calculator on our website. If you go to the PTZOptics Move SE or Move 4K page and scroll to the bottom, what you're thinking about is how far is the camera going to be from the subject. So if you're a pastor at the front of a church, is it a small and narrow church, or is it a long and narrow church, right? Depending on how it's set up. A 12x can probably zoom into like a head and shoulder shot, kind of like the shot I have here, from about 25 to 35 feet away. Where a 20x, and I might be getting this a little off, but like from 40 to 55 feet, and then that 30x being able to get a head and shoulder shot from up to 75 feet away. So you can use our calculator to learn more about that. It's a trade-off between how wide angle the camera is and how far it can zoom in.
I think that is a perfect explanation of why somebody would want to go over, and get different zoom lengths. A lot of people only think about how far the subject is going to be away from the camera, but you brought it into a good perspective about, there are situations where you want to have a wide angle view as well. You also mentioned not too long ago all of the different connection options. Now, of course, we're talking about NDI, but NDI, sometimes you want to have a redundancy, sometimes you want to have multiple connections out at the same time. Can you tell us about all of the different options that you give the customers to choose with these cameras in terms of output?
Yeah, and it's good to think about this because there's different options and customers tend to grow and change over time. So, while you might be using NDI because it's so easy in the beginning, you plug it into Ethernet, it'll connect directly to OBS, to vMix, to Wirecast, to a TriCaster, to the NDI tools that are free to use. NDI is a super easy starting point. But sometimes people, their workflows grow and they want to use HDMI to power a confidence monitor, or maybe to plug into a video switcher that's being shown with image magnification. HDMI will have lower latency than NDI. It's uncompressed. It goes right out the HDMI or the SDI. And generally, video switchers that are hardware-based, right? NDI is software-based, right? It's encoded over the network, and there's a little bit of latency. It's not a lot. But there are times when you want to have a super low latency image magnification of an HDMI or SDI video. HDMI being really good for short video runs, unless you want to use a HDMI extender. SDI being really good for long cable runs. You can run SDI hundreds of feet. Now we're looking at this. HDMI out of a Move 4K is available at 4K up to 60 frames a second. Same with NDI. USB is usually a short cable, right? It's usually close to a computer, but you can plug it in and connect it directly to Zoom or to Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or a video conferencing software. The nice thing about USB that a lot of people don't realize is that USB provides the ability to control the camera on the far end just through the USB connection with many video conferencing software solutions, including Zoom. So we have a lot of doctors, for example, who are in a small patient room where they would want a wide angle 12x so they can see the entire patient bed and everything going on. But 12x zoom in a small patient room is plenty enough to allow the doctor who's a specialist in telehealth or telemedicine to zoom in to see the different things they need to see to diagnose and do their job with telehealth. So just an example there of USB being a great option as well for easy plug and play for a variety of webcam connectivity options for video recordings, live streaming, and video communications.
I 100% agree. PTZOptics not only makes it easy to use their cameras, but it also gives the flexibility for the end user to decide what they want to use. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is something that you guys are super excited about, we're super excited about, and that is Hive Studio, to be able to do remote control of PTZ cameras. Can you tell us a little bit about Hive Studio? And then I think we have a demo that we're going to get into as well. So why don't you tell us what Hive Studio is first?
Yeah, so Hive is our brand new web-based camera control system. And what it allows you to do is to share a link with anyone in the world to take control of your cameras. And you can assign permissions. So you can say one person is able to view the cameras, another person is able to control the cameras, and then you could have another person who's doing color correction. Or, you can give basic controls to volunteers at a church and more advanced controls to the pastor or someone in charge of the events. So this opens up a whole new world of video production and live streaming called remote production, where you don't have to be on site anymore. PTZOptics cameras will all come Hive linked enabled. And that means you can take a PTZOptics camera, connect it to your local area network, connect it to your Hive account, unplug it, ship it anywhere in the world. And as soon as it plugs in, it'll authenticate into your account and you can remotely control it. So that allows audiovisual integrators to enhance the service and support that they offer their customers by having all of their cameras remotely enabled to check the color, to make sure the bit rate is correct, to troubleshoot problems. It allows houses of worship or event managers to, have volunteers or people help out with zooming in the camera and managing the productions remotely. It also allows, since it provides live streaming and recording and NDI output, which we'll show in a moment here, it allows you to easily manage multiple studios. So you can have multiple churches managed from one location, or multiple conference rooms, or multiple events. So you can have teams that are working from home or working dispersely all over the world and connect them all together. It's almost like going, James, it's almost like going from the typewriter to like Google Docs, where finally our video production systems can be shared in the cloud.
No, I agree. The thing that resonates with me, and I think you mentioned this, and I just want to highlight it again, especially in houses of worship when people are working, volunteers, and they don't have a ton of people on the video team. And now if one of those volunteers is sick and unable to make it to service, but they're not sick enough that they can't, still help out, they can still log into Hive Studio and then be able to, help control the cameras, like you said, change some colors. And so they can still help even if they're not on location. And I think that is just great. And I think that it's a perfect example of where something like Hive Studio can really shine.
Yeah, so I'm happy to jump into a quick little live demo and show this, because the other thing this does to show from an NDI perspective is this allows us to take NDI video from anywhere in the world and bridge it. So one of the things I'm showing here is a very simple click to center tool where we can just click where we want the camera to go and it just goes to that center point. There's a super easy tool that's just click and drag. So I'm just clicking my mouse and dragging where I want the camera to go. So it just couldn't be easier for somebody. They're just using a keyboard and mouse. Where do we want the camera to go? I'll show you one of my favorite tools here, which is a cinematic framing tool. So we can just zoom in where we want the camera to go. I can move my mouse wheel here, and I'll click this little cat here, and the camera will just zoom into the cat. So it makes it so easy to move PTZ cameras around. And if I hit the share button, of course, like we were talking about, I can type in anybody's email address and just send them an access to control my cameras because I need an extra camera operator because I've got 5 cameras, let's say, and I need help. A viewer, which is really popular in sports and even where it'll be interesting to see in House of Worship, giving access for someone to view all the cameras in your production, not just the output that's going to vMix or YouTube, for example. Another piece here is being able to record every single camera in the cloud and remotely. So this allows us to say, all right, well, I need all my cameras to be recorded. I don't need a high-end computer. I don't need any additional software. And then also the ability to output the NDI video on the far end. So we have a lot of customers, especially in sports, who have stadiums all across the country, and they want to connect all of their NDI sources, basically bridging them all back to a central location. Hive does that really well. Another piece of this on the left-hand side is I've got a whole bunch of different studios that I can manage. So if you have multiple event spaces, multiple conference rooms, you can just jump right into them all cloud connected here. We have the ability to monitor the bit rate and everything here and make even the finest adjustments. So, I mean, you can see I'm using NDI to bring the video in right now, but I could adjust the bit rate, make sure the quality is where I want it to be. And another big thing, James, that I have to show is the ability to bring in almost any video source. So for example, I'll just show you how many cameras we support here inside of Hive. We support, just go through here, I'll just add a camera and show you. We support Bird Dog, we support Canon, we support JVC, NewTek, Sony. Even when you go into here, just to show, we've got every Sony model here, even the high-end FR7, which is really the highest end PTZ camera available today. And I say that because this is not just Visca over IP, the way a lot of IP joysticks are. We have designed actual drivers for these cameras, which allows us to have really in-depth controls over, exposure, shutter speed, color, white balance. So we're not just doing basic controls. This allows, and so many of our customers have, even my church, we've got like a Blackmagic, a Panasonic, we've got a PTZOptics, and we're in all different Chrome browsers to control them all, and all the buttons are in different places. With this software, we can unify, even if you have multiple manufacturers, multiple brands, we can get everything into one platform that's easy to use.
I think that's a perfect thing to mention because sometimes people overlook, color matching, and that is something that can be very important, making sure that all of your cameras look exactly the same. Some people are able to, purchase cameras that are all from the same manufacturer, but sometimes the camera is donated, whether it's a school or a house of worship, and they kind of just have to use what they have. So Hive Studio being able to control and collaborate all of these different manufacturers, I think that's just huge kudos to the PTZOptics team. I think that is fantastic. And as you can see with this demo still going on, I just wanted to give another shout out. Look how smooth this camera is operating. I honestly don't know if I was using a joystick controller, if I can make the camera look that smooth. So again, kudos to that aspect as well. It's not only easy to control, but it's also very, very cinematic, very smooth, and not jittery at all. So kudos to PTZOptics. Good job, Paul.
Thanks, James.
I wanted to go through some workflow slides here, Paul. If we could bring this slide up full screen, and you can kind of explain exactly kind of what you just went through, but how this would work in like a real world application.
Yeah, so one of the things we're showing here is the value of teamwork. And what's happening here is you've got one studio, right? And the world we live in, essentially, this is, if you don't have your hands on the video switcher, you can't contribute. But when you bring Hive in, now we can have a producer that's remote, we can have a camera operator that's remote, we can have an audio mixer that's remote, and we get everything connected to the cloud. So this really changes the game when it comes to working with teams. For people who are setting up events, we're going to save them thousands of dollars in travel and airfare by allowing their teams to manage everything from their headquarters and centrally.
I totally agree. And with PTZ cameras, you can literally just send the camera to the location, connect it to the internet, and then it's that simple. Like you said, you don't have to send a cameraman, you don't have to pay for that airfare. You can just overnight them a camera, and now they're connected to your studio, and you can, control that camera. I think one thing too is sometimes when you have a remote guest, they're just using their webcam because they may not be a camera person. Now you can just send them a camera and say, hey, connect this to the internet, and that's all you need to do. I'll take care of everything else and make you look gorgeous. So I think that this also kind of shows that a little bit as well.
Yeah, it really does, because even if, as we said, even if you're using the USB connection on the camera for your remote guests in Zoom, you still have access to, tweaking the colors, moving it around. Now, this one is the no computer needed situation. And this is for those education organizations. They want to video enable all the classrooms or the music rooms or what have you, but it's cost prohibitive to put in a live streaming system in every location. So with Hive linked cameras, the Move SE and the Move 4K, we can link them directly to Hive, and an IT manager, an AV manager, or a broadcast engineer can just do everything remotely from their computer using Hive in the cloud. and therefore connecting everything. And this is not like SRT. Quite frankly, it's not like NDI Bridge. There is no ports that needed to be opened. There is no configuration. It goes right up to our cloud, and you do not need to have a computer or a bridge client at either end. It just uses the cloud, and that technology is very easy to use.
That's great. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on in this workflow slide?
Yeah, so this one is showing the NDI output that I mentioned briefly here. So let's say we've got a studio, we've got a PTZ camera and a box camera that's not Hive linked. Those cameras do need a Hive Studio computer to get up to the cloud. Hive linked camera, the one at the bottom there, the Move 4K 20X, that one doesn't need a computer, so it can go right to the cloud. But all of them can be brought into a Hive Studio anywhere in the world, and you can output each video source as its own NDI source on your local area network at the remote location and use it with vMix, Wirecast, or a TriCaster. So bridging kind of the gap between the local area network and wherever your remote location is going to be.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Paul. This is basically saying that not only can you control your cameras remotely in terms of movement and color and all of that, but now you can also switch them technically remotely, because now you're just bringing them into your local, whatever kind of switcher that you're using, because now it's on your local network. So you can also mix your cameras, you can control the cameras, and it truly is a 100% remote workflow at this point, right?
Yes, that is true. And I also want to say that, this is all available local as well. So it's local or remote. Video switching and recording will all be available when the product's shipping in early 2025 as well, whether you're local or in the cloud. So all of these tools are hybrid in that sense, where if you want to do local switching, local recording, and you don't need the cloud, that's okay. This is still a great tool that combines PTZ control, video recording, and video switching and streaming. Or when inevitably I feel like the future is, oh, we have one extra person helping today, or we need that cloud and we need that share button, it's there to bridge the gap. And I'll give you an example. We were at a tennis match and we were setting up the auto tracking to see if the PTZ cameras could track the tennis players. And the coach comes up to me and he's like, can I see? He sees that we're using Hive. He sees that it's in the browser. And he's like, can I look at that on my computer? Sure. It's like, well, then can the parents and the friends of the players look at it? Sure. Can the other coaches look? And I'm like, yes. And suddenly we had like 10 people in Hive, and it hit me. And I was like, any hardware video switcher would never be able to do this. And that's sort of the growth that's really interesting, this growth mindset of more people getting involved. And because it's so easy to use, we found that lots of people really connect and share this application.
Yeah, it's not just collaborating in terms of, being able to control the cameras, but also just being able to see what the cameras see and then commenting on like, oh, I like that shot. And I think what you're kind of alluding to here with sports is you can use this for like a little bit of analyzing a play or something like that too. So I think that's great. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in this slide with the Hive Link Studios?
Yeah, so one of the things that we foresee here is that each room, you don't need a computer anymore. So the cost for equipping a room with audio and video can go down significantly. You put one PTZ camera in the room. Our PTZOptics cameras have a audio input. So you can connect a line level microphone. And now with a camera and a microphone, you have a full live streaming video recording solution that you can remotely control and remotely manage. So it becomes very scalable when you reduce the cost down to the camera and the microphone. And we're showing, line level microphones here in room 1 and 2, and then a full audio mixer where it's taking the audio output from the mixer directly into the camera. So the camera has the compute. The camera is the on-site computer bridging to the cloud and giving you all your connectivity for remote management and recording and streaming.
And I think this just goes back to what we said earlier, giving the end user the ultimate decision of how they want to do this. You give them so many options to do whatever they need to do, so many different ways to get from A to B. And, again, just kudos to PTZOptics with not only the cameras, but Hive Studio. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is your flagship controller, the Superjoy controller, which can do kind of a jack of all trades. It can do serial, it can do IP, it can do NDI. You want to talk about the Superjoy a little bit?
Yeah, so this really is our most popular joystick controller. The power over Ethernet is just exactly what we're talking about here. The single cable simplicity, one Ethernet cable to power this, to connect to all of your cameras, and actually bring video in over NDI and over the video sources on your network. It can output HDMI to a monitor, so you can always have a large video preview of the camera you're controlling and switching between. So that's the power over Ethernet, the HDMI output. The NDI support is really, really cool. We've tested this with any NDI camera that supports the newer kind of NDI protocols. We can control them, we can get video from them, and it's just really nice. And then the other feature is the custom buttons. There's 4 custom buttons. You can see them right under the LCD display there. And those can be set up to do whatever you want. And so kind of going into what James is saying here, trying to provide as much flexibility as we can, this gives you the ability to do a super preset. And a super preset is the ability to send a single button command to 5 cameras to set them all up so that they're all set up for a specific scene, whether that be a baptismal area at the left-hand side of the church scene, or perhaps in sports where we want to get all the cameras downfield because we're getting close to a touchdown. It's very flexible in that way. The custom buttons can also send commands to vMix, to Wirecast, to a TriCaster, where we can send an HTTP command to start recording or start streaming. There's even a button on the top of that physical joystick there that can be set up as a custom button. And for that one, I really like to turn on and off auto tracking. So you can do whatever you want with these buttons, but the options is up to the customer.
So, Paul, I think we discussed a little bit before the show. You kind of wanted to show off some of those features. So I'll pull up this slide that shows off some of the new firmware features, and maybe you can give us a little demo to show off some of your favorite features on the Superjoy.
Yeah, I would be happy to. And so there's 2 parts of this Superjoy. One is the physical Superjoy that I have in front of me here, and then the other is the web interface, because this is connected to the network. So this is my Superjoy here, and one of the great things about this device is, as I said, the custom buttons at the top, and then the new button on top here. The other thing we added to this is Panasonic support. So not only do we support PTZOptics, Visca over IP, which supports BirdDog and JVC, and a variety of popular cameras, including Sony, we also now support Panasonic. So all of this, and then the other thing I want to mention too is there's a basic mode to this joystick. So we can have a basic mode, which is, sorry about that, thank you. There's a basic mode on this right here. You click this button and it locks this side of the joystick down. So this side of the joystick to the left is for, in-depth setup. So getting the color correction correct, getting the autofocus down, the PTZ speeds. But then if we turn basic mode on, the volunteer just gets access to what really can't be messed up and makes it simpler for them to focus if they're just getting trained. Now, if I show you the web interface for this joystick controller, you'll see that there's quite a lot built into this joystick. We have a really nice web interface for connecting all of our cameras up and determining how we're going to connect to them, whether that be Panasonic, OnVIF, which is any security camera, NDI, which is any NDI camera. And one of the cool things you can do is you can search the entire network for all NDI sources on the network, and it'll pull them up for your ability to connect to them and basically control all of those cameras. So that's what the search tab does here. We also have a custom buttons here. So these are the 4 custom buttons plus that joystick here. And a custom button can be set up as either a super preset, where we're saying when I click one button, I want cameras, 1, 2, and 3 to all go to preset 2, for example. So there's a little logic because every setup is a little different, but allowing you to really have powerful control of multiple cameras simplified to a single button push. And then there's just a lot more to this. I'm not going to, bore you with every single thing, but we have really simplified the updating of the software. So we've got a new upgrade button. You can check the firmware to make sure that you have the latest and greatest, because our team is constantly adding new features for NDI and security updates to make sure that our products, stand the test of time, that they are continually the latest and greatest.
I think that's a great demo. And I think, you said that you don't want to go in super detail right now, but again, I got to give a shout out to you and your team because you guys have a great website and you also have a YouTube channel that you go in super depth into all of these features. So can you tell us where we can find more information on things like that?
Yeah, so PTZOptics.com, we have a whole solutions area, which goes in-depth case study by industry. And then our YouTube channel is organized into playlists. For example, getting started. If you're just getting started and you want to get all the in-depth kind of tutorials on setting up your network. And then, of course, more advanced topics as well that are available on our YouTube channel.
Great. I just wanted to throw that out there. We're talking about your controllers and we're talking about your PTZ cameras. You guys are doing a bundle right now where you can get 3 cameras and a controller and, the customer can save a little bit of money. Can you talk about these bundles and maybe where you see one fitting in over the other, or any other information that you'd like to say about these?
We decided to create these bundles to help our customers save, over $1,000 when you purchase these together. And basically, we have a 1080p bundle, which is the Producer SE. Those are the Move SE cameras. And then we have the 4K bundle, which is the Move 4K cameras. So one is a little bit more affordable, and these are all plug and play power over Ethernet solutions. So all you need is an off-the-shelf power over Ethernet network switch. We obviously recommend Netgear and some of the more smart switches that support the latest NDI, profiles for IP video. But these are super affordable. You can save over $1,000 here. And these cameras are plug and play. They come with a quick start guide to help you get up and running. We have setup videos that can really get these up and running quickly. And it's just, people are really impressed because, we're skipping the HDMI and the SDI and going straight with, these are fully NDI compatible solutions. So whether you're recording the video, streaming the video, working with NDI decoders to distribute the video over your network, NDI has just become such a powerful solution for video production that these are just NDI ready bundles, the most attractive offers that we have for these systems.
I think that's a great explanation of why somebody would want to go with one of these bundles. We're talking about PTZs and we're talking about NDI and being able to put these cameras in places that, you can't necessarily get a person there. And you guys also offer various different mounting solutions to put these cameras in hard to reach areas. You want to talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, so, and these are great products we make these here in the United States. These are camera mounts for the wall, for the pole, and then there's even a ceiling mount. And what these allow you to do is be super flexible on where these discrete locations are in your location. So a wall mount, very straightforward. A ceiling mount, this is a flush mount, so it fits onto a standard electrical gang box. And you can put these flush. I have these in our studio here all over if you want to take a peek. But essentially, very easy to get going. And then the pole mount, we have a lot of houses of worship and different organizations that want to get the camera down 5, 10, 15 feet. And that's just a standard 1-inch threaded pipe that you can get at Home Depot because there's different varieties of lengths. And then we provide the connection on both sides of that plate so that you can easily get these mounts, cameras mounted in all the different locations. Here's the ceiling mount here shown flush onto a wall here. That's a white camera on a black mount. We probably could have chose a gray camera now that I think about it. A lot of times white
It
cameras
stands
will go
out.
on a white drop ceiling.
And we're talking about all of these flexible mounting options too. And correct me if I'm wrong, these cameras also have, just a standard 1/4-20 screw on the bottom of them too. So if you did want to have more of a run and gun situation, you do have the ability to put this on a tripod and quickly mount it for, a conference room or, a sporting event or something like that if you don't have permanent installations.
Exactly right.
Okay, so we talked about all these different workflows. I have one last workflow slide that I kind of want to have you walk through, just explaining again how versatile this entire line of products are.
Yeah, so this is the Superjoy here shown connected to as many things as you could imagine. You've got serial connected cameras. There's still serial cameras out there. It's used for a very long time, even though we're moving to IP. If you've got some serial connections, we can accommodate that. We've got an IP connection. We've got a Sony camera. We've got an NDI camera connected. We have a free smartphone app that's connected over Wi-Fi. We're showing the connection of a camera in the bottom right there that's coming over UDP. This is over the public internet, so that can be done with the Superjoy, although Hive makes that a lot easier nowadays. We're showing that custom button with HTTP, controlling a Epiphan Pearl Nano, so sending a control to start and stop recording there. And then we're showing even controlling vMix and OBS with the Superjoy. And then at the top there, an HDMI output. So you can see very flexible. While you might not be doing all of this today, a lot of our customers know that our support team is so good. If and when you decide to add some of this to your setup, maybe not now, but in the future, you're ready to do so, and our team is happy to help.
I think that's great. I wanted to quickly go over some case studies here. We'll put a link on the screen as well where you can get more information on these case studies. But Paul, why don't you give us a little overview? I think we have 3 or 4 case studies that we want to go through. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Bethany Church?
So Bethany Church is a small church. I think they're in North Carolina, and they have a really beautiful setup. They're using multiple PTZOptics cameras with a Superjoy, and the installation is something to look at here. They're using the wall mounts, but they put the cameras inverted. And this is something I think is really important to think about. When you invert a PTZ camera like that, you get more flexibility for going up and down because, pointing at the ceiling is not necessarily something that they want to do, but now they can track the pastor with a lot more range with having the cameras inverted like that. You can see it's just a single Ethernet cable to power the camera, to control the camera, and they're using NDI for all their video.
Okay, great. And we'll move right on to the next case study. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that name. Can you tell us a little bit about this high
It's a
school?
tough one. It's Louisiana High School. They're in Wilmington, Delaware. I was over there last week. These are some fresh pictures here. They're doing live streaming of their high school sports. They're using the Move 4K cameras, a wireless cable, which is a wireless transmission system, and they're sending that all back into vMix. They've got a PTZOptics Superjoy, and it's a student-run broadcast club. So I love seeing the students get their hands on new technology and really doing great sports productions with instant replay and graphics. It's just a great setup there. We've got a cool case study on our website about that.
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll link to that again. And can you tell us about some healthcare applications where these cameras are being used in Hive Studio?
Yeah, so this is healthcare. Common Spirit is one of the, if it's not the second largest, it's like one of the top five largest healthcare networks in the United States. They're using the cameras for telehealth. So doctors coming in, specialists coming in. And while the cameras are generally set up to leverage Zoom, right? They in their larger, systems, they're looking into using Hive for more surgical streaming areas. So where they can have more in-depth control. As you know, Zoom is designed for video communications, and there's an up, down, left, right button for panning and tilting the zoom of the camera remotely, which serves a lot of the scenarios. But healthcare is a big market, and a lot of times we see higher demand for multi-camera recording and having really precise control of cameras for recording and streaming, and that's what Hive is showing there on the right.
That's great. And why don't you tell us a little bit about Johns Hopkins University and what you guys did there, or what they are doing
Yes,
there?
Johns Hopkins University has a AV team that goes around campus to shoot events, and so they are in charge of setting up the live streaming and video production in their higher education organization. They use multiple PTZOptics Move 4K cameras along with the Superjoy Controller, loving the single cable simplicity for a different reason than most. Their auditorium was just not set up for AV. Beautiful auditorium, was brand new, cost like $15 million, but no, they had no Ethernet cables run. And so the AV team had to make it work, and they couldn't run 5 cables to every camera. They had to do it all themselves. They chose to go with NDI to Ethernet cable to power the cameras, control the cameras, and do the video. And even though they're using a Blackmagic switcher and converting NDI to HDMI to use the Blackmagic switcher, they are still using NDI to transport the video because it's just so easy from a connectivity standpoint.
Yeah, I think that we talked about this a little bit earlier. Being able to mix and match both the baseband and NDI with these cameras is pretty easy. And again, you can have that hybrid workflow, and you can take the power and the control over NDI, but then still use video with HDMI or SDI or whatever video output method that you want. And I think that you kind of hit it on the nail with, again, not all of these places have the ability to run 3 cables to each individual camera, and NDI kind of just solves that. You can do that all with 1 cable, and it's not a limited run cable either. You can have it, I think we mentioned, hundreds of feet, and that's not going to be any issue. And then I think this is our last case study, but there are more on your website. So why don't you tell us about New York State Unified Court System?
A super exciting one. I know you're in New York now. The New York court system has 1,400 courts. So accommodating video systems here was a price point because of the quantity of courts that are out there. They went with NDI for a variety of reasons. One is it just cut out all the expensive video routing and switching hardware that was needed. They put a PoE network switch in to power all of the devices. They have NDI decoders showing the video to the jury. They have multiple cameras in here. And what happens is that they actually just turn off the network switch at 5 p.m. It saves them on electricity. It saves them on air conditioning because some of this equipment gets hot. They are just over the moon with getting everything on the network, and they've standardized on NDI throughout, and they're using PTZOptics NDI cameras to do that.
I think that is great, and I think we've also touched on a whole bunch of different markets to again just show how flexible not only NDI is, but PTZOptics cameras. There really is an option from PTZOptics for pretty much any workflow. Paul, I wanted to say thank you for joining us, and I wanted to mention one more thing and kind of put you on the spot here. You're also an author for a book called The Unofficial Guide to NDI. So you are very well versed in NDI, and I wanted to ask you, without getting you in trouble, what can you tell us what you expect to see in the near future and the far future in terms of both PTZOptics and NDI, or AV over IP in general?
Yeah, so here's what I'll say. I'm glad you asked that question. When NDI first came out, it was software and it had to run on a Windows computer, and that's just the way it worked. Then Matt Davis and I at PTZOptics were working with the original New Tech team coming out with NDI, and it was a mind-blowing thought to put NDI on a camera, right? Could we do it? And that's where NDI HX came from, the high efficiency version of NDI. And that version has become the standard, the most popular way to move NDI video over the network. And what it's opened up, because it's so efficient, is it's opened up the ability to use local area networks that aren't only designed for NDI, right? And so we're seeing it in corporate, we're seeing it in education, and we're seeing it work. So that's been great over the past 4 to 5 years. Now what we're seeing is now we're on the third generation of PTZOptics cameras, right? The first generation, we didn't have NDI. The second generation, we got NDI. The third generation, we've got NDI, we've got computer vision, and we're putting in the ability to connect it directly to the cloud. So when we talk about expanding the NDI network, it's been unheard of to go outside the local area network and make these things available to anyone, anywhere in the world. And when we talk about 5G, cellular connections, suddenly we're breaking free, not just from the local area network, but from, the boundaries of physical Ethernet cables and using cellular connectivity, putting cameras on mountaintops. That's sort of where my mind goes, but making it easy to manage all of that and having central control systems. So it's now that we've moved towards NDI, and we're using IP, the scalability and flexibility, we're just going to go deeper and deeper into organizations because we've proved that it worked. And then we're going to go, wider and wider in scale as well. So it's a lot of growth is what I see, James.
I think that is a perfect place to end this. There's a lot of opportunity, and I'm excited to see where things go as well. I want to say thank you again to Paul for joining us today, and make sure to stay tuned all month long because we got more to say about NDI. So we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks. Bye. All right, so we want to say thank you again to Paul Richards and the team at PTZOptics for joining us to talk about their great cameras and controllers and Hive Studio. I think that is a really cool demo that they were able to show off both with Hive Studio and the Superjoy. We always love having them on the show. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we are going to be announcing our prize winner for the Z-Cam, and that is going to be going to Andy B. from Appleton, Wisconsin. So please make sure to check your email because we will be sending you some information on how to get that camera. So congratulations. Last, I want to just say, stay tuned all month long for NDI November. You can still register at ndinovember.com. Tomorrow we will be live here again on Facebook and YouTube. So definitely give us a like, a follow, subscribe if you like what you saw today, because there's going to be more of that tomorrow and all throughout the month of November. So that's all I have to say. Again, congratulations to Andy B. Please check your email, and we will see everyone tomorrow. Have a great day.